The Salt Lake Institute of Genealogy will celebrate its silver anniversary in January 2020. Elevate your genealogical education to new heights. At SLIG, you will learn from the field's top professionals, obtain in-depth instruction, network with respected experts, consult with successful researchers, and research at the Family History Library. Registration opens July 13th, 2019 at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. We've asked the course coordinators to tell us a little bit about the course to help you decide if it's the right fit for you. Certified genealogists Rick and Pam Sayre are the course coordinators for Advanced Research Tools Land Records. Keep watching to learn more about their background and the course.
I'm Rick Sayre. I'm a certified genealogist. I have a lot of expertise in federal records, federal land records, government documents, military records. I also research extensively in Pennsylvania and Ohio and Ireland. Pam?
I'm Pam Sayre, the other half of Sayre and Sayre. I'm also a certified genealogist, and my research is a lot different from Rick's. His is mostly city research, and mine is rural and southern. So we have a lot of different perspectives on land, particularly based on our exclusively different research experiences.
How long have you been working on genealogy, and how did you become interested in it?
Over 20 years, I guess. I started, back in the 1980s, I guess, when I helped my mother find her Irish ancestors. We weren't successful while she was still alive, but I did do that later on. But her discovering a family that she didn't know about, that she had actually six half-siblings, was really a powerful experience and led to my involvement in genealogy, now something I do full-time.
Oh, tell them about the course you took to get started in genealogy.
Which one?
In Asia.
Oh, I started with the NGS Home Study course, but I was a colonel stationed in the Army in Seoul, Korea. And so I took the correspondence course, which at that time, that's what you did. You did lessons and you mailed them in and they got graded. And occasionally I had an opportunity to travel for military reasons to Japan that had a family history center. And so I got my resources to do the research in a combination of the post library in Yongsan, Korea, the garrison there, and the family history center in Tokyo. And occasionally I would come back on temporary duty to America and use other resources, particularly in Pennsylvania.
So the moral of that story is you can do genealogy anywhere. Well, my story is a little bit different. I've been doing this, it's scary to say, but for over 50 years now, because I started in 8th grade thanks to my 8th grade language arts teacher, Mrs. Kirkpatrick, who gave us an assignment to determine the origin of our surname. And my surname was Boyer, so I learned that we were like bowmen and archers, people who shot bows and arrows. And from that, I went to the one shelf of genealogy books in my little local library, to family history centers. And I was always the nosy kid anyway. I sat around listening to the old people talk in the evenings on my grandfather's farm in rural Missouri. And they'd pull out their banjos and fiddles too. But I was fascinated by the stories of the old days and the great-grandparents and the great-great-grandparents. And to this day, I feel that tie to those who came before, and in many cases, the land that they held.
Have you had any prior SLIG experience?
Yes, I have, and so has Pam. Besides teaching our course together, the land course, and several other courses, I have collaborated with Judy Russell in the Family History Law Library course that we have offered together in SLIG. And then I've also been a guest instructor in other courses.
We both taught in the Advanced Methodology course for Tom Jones. It'll now be Paul Graham's course. And we've also jointly done a course called Research in Washington, D.C. without going there several times at SLIG, as well as having done this land course previously. But interestingly, I think Rick neglected to tell you that back in the olden days, he was actually a student at SLIG.
Yeah, I first went to SLIG as a student and took an immigration course from Corey Meyerlink in 2000, I think it was. And oh, by the way, I also coordinate another course, which is advanced land research using maps in genealogy, which was offered 2 years ago, I guess it was.
Please tell us about the course you will be coordinating and the main topics that will be covered.
In 2020, we're both co-coordinating the Advanced Land Records course, which is the history of land distribution in the United States, everything you wanted to know about land and weren't afraid to ask because you came to SLIG to learn it. So we start with the colonial era, when land was distributed by various monarchies, the British, the French, the Spanish, the Dutch, and so forth, in the 13 original colonies. And that includes information about private land claims.
We'll also cover the public land survey system, which is the 30 public land states in America. And we'll discuss how that was created. And then the second part of after we created it, the government disposed of it. Things like homesteads and preemptions and cash sales and credit sales. We'll cover all that federal stuff so people will understand how to find the genealogy that is in federal land records and how to pick up the thread in the counties after that first transfer from the federal government.
Yeah, many people, I don't think, realize that America was unique because we were settled so recently compared to the rest of the world, and that this entire nation was land that had to be sold by some entity to that first purchaser. And then after the first purchaser, of course, we go into regular deeds and property purchases and sales, just the way we do it today when we buy or sell a house.
Although there were some vestiges of the old European system in like New York, where they had large estates that really didn't get broken up until the middle to late 1800s, as these estates were bought up by people that were tenants at the time.
And then you have the unique states like Ohio with its multiple systems, and Texas and Hawaii, and some of our states that had their own distribution systems. And in Texas's case, it was its own country, republic at one time. So we, of course, can't cover every one of these in depth, but we at least touch on them so that people can begin to understand how land sales and purchases occurred in America.
Who would benefit the most from this course, and what basic knowledge should students have before taking it?
I'd say almost everybody, because most of our ancestors lived on land somewhere, but particularly if you know you have landowners and someone owned a piece of land, and depending upon where it is, we'll help you figure out what are the right records, whether it's a state land state or a federal state. So that would be one area. It also will help you with the genealogy of breaking through brick walls. Pam, you want to talk about that?
Well, I think one of my favorite sayings is that land genealogy is equally as important as people genealogy. So many of us everybody has a brick wall. And I've heard so many people say, oh, I've just tried everything and I cannot solve this problem. And you ask them, have you looked at land records? Oh, no. What would that have other than just who bought it and what date and how much and how big it was? Well, it can have entire genealogies of families. Some of the private land claims, you can pull out a document contained within those files at the National Archives and find a paper that you unroll for many feet with documentation of every person in that family and their genealogy trying to claim clear title to that piece of land. I would say this is not a course for beginners. If you're brand new to genealogy, you're going to be busy with those censuses and birth records and the basics for quite some time. But when you've got a little bit of experience under your belt and you're ready to delve into land, and please don't let me hear you say, oh, my people were so poor they didn't own any land. My people were very poor and often illiterate, and yet there's always a piece of land. I remember weeping over a microfilm reader once when I found my third great-grandfather's first purchase of land when he already had 8 children or so, and he was able to buy 5 acres of land in Barron County, Kentucky. So everybody in the past, for the most part, if they weren't exactly city dwellers, they were rural dwellers, and they had to live on the land. So they either owned it, or they rented it, or they mortgaged property to get the seeds to sharecrop on someone else's land. So land can solve a lot of genealogy problems.
It certainly can.
What should students expect to learn by the end of the course?
They should have a good understanding of land systems in America, be they colonial, meets and bounds, or public land survey systems. They should be able to find a deed, understand a deed. They should be able to plat a simple piece of land that's done in the meets and bounds or irregular survey system. And they generally should be prepared to be a land researcher and find the genealogy that is buried in land records.
And they'll also be able to locate land, maybe not meets and bounds because that's a little more difficult, but they'll have an idea where it was and how to be able to place it on a big jigsaw puzzle of all the surrounding meets and bounds properties. And for public land survey system land, they will be able to go to a specific location where that is. And they'll know how to plat deeds because there will be a wonderful workshop by Jerry Smith and Rebecca Coford where they'll learn to manually plat and also to use deed mapper software. So they should have a really good understanding of land, the distribution systems, how to work with a piece of land, understanding neighborhoods, and putting their ancestor in place when the course is finished.
What makes your course unique?
The overall thread of land running through American history and through our collective family histories, the push of immigration outside of Europe coming to America because there was no opportunity for people to own land in Europe, but they could come to America, and bounty lands, homesteads, cheap land, all kinds of opportunity was available in this country. And this course will help you understand how land dovetails with immigration and many other aspects of genealogy.
Well, an important point is that over 12 million acres in this country was awarded under the Homestead Act of 1862, and many of them were immigrants, and some of that is revealed because part of the requirement for a homestead was to become an American citizen, and so you find records of naturalization within a homestead file.
We hope you enjoyed learning about the SLIG Advanced Research Tools Land Records course with Rick and Pam Sayre. Registration for SLIG courses opens July 13th, 2019. Check out the website slig.ugagenealogy.org for more information.